Question 7. What is the turning point that causes Sam to make his final decision regarding Max? Was it a sudden decision, or has he been thinking about it for a while? What clues do you find throughout the novel to support your position?
I think that the turning point for Sam was like when they were at Andy's and he was like hanging out with all the guys, and like he hadn't been able to do that since like he was a bit boring. And on page 172, he like talked about like when he was laying in the grass, like how much he had missed it, like being able to just like hang out with Andy. And so I think that that like was the point where he was like, I probably need to like get rid of the kid because like I'm also studying.
I agree, but I also think that the talk about college with what his mentor, no, the counselor, yeah, something like that. About like right when she said like, have you thought about taking ACT? I think that on page 42, I think that was kind of like a turning point for SAT. Sorry, on his decision making. But I also agree with Allie about like having fun and then being around his friends. He missed that.
I agree with Allie about it being when he was at Andy's, but I think it was also part of him like hearing his friends' futures plan, like their future and all the plans they have on page 167 when they're all just like sitting around and talking and everything. And then I also think something that just like enforced that in him more was seeing how the boy got to go into the back with his mom, and like Max couldn't do that, and he's like, well, if I can't be the best parent for Max, maybe there should be someone else.
Yeah, I think the biggest turning point was when Max cut his hand. And like there was a blood all over, and Sam went into a room and like he was like yelling at page 115 that because it's his fault and it's like his responsibility. I think at that point you realize he can never be like, well, he cannot be responsible enough. He's not responsible enough, and like he can't always be there for Sam, Max, like at his age, even if he wants to go to college and work.
Yeah.
So I realized just okay.
I agree with what like everyone's saying about like how like the turning point is and like when it is and where it is, but I don't think that it's all so sudden. I think he kind of like in the back of his head kind of like wishes like what he used to have, that he still had what he used to have is what I'm saying. So I don't really think that it was like a big turning point, like, but I definitely think that like that night kind of had an influence on like his overall decision.
Yeah, maybe with Rob, and also I agree with all of you. I think it was a huge combined, like it was for a long time, and like I'm 193, so I've been thinking about it for a long time too. But I think the most like specific turning point was on page 187 when the doctor is kind of telling him, Sam, you do this, Sam, you do that. Like I think he's like not really listening to her. He's kind of like just like off in his own world, like listening. Like I can't do all this for my kid. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy to always be there for him. And I mean, obviously you need to. I mean, he doesn't have the time to put the kid first before what he needs to accomplish in life. And I think that was the biggest turning point in my opinion.
I noticed there was one point in the book, I wish I couldn't find the page number, but it's somewhere in there. He's like laying in bed. It's like maybe middle of the book, and he says, I was wondering how I could get the strength to do what I know I needed to do. And I couldn't find that, but that was before Max got his hand cut and everything, I'm pretty sure. So I noticed that right away, and when I was reading, I was like, okay, we know that he's going to give the baby up for adoption.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you'd call that a turning point, but it's definitely a big part.
Yeah, for that reason, I feel like it wasn't like a sudden decision at all. Kind of like I feel like we all kind of agree on that, because like the clues are given when Sam was like really silent and cold to Claire, and then like he's refusing to tell her anything. Like on page 162, he won't tell her like what's wrong and why he's not talking to her as much. And then when they're all at Jenny's, like he's obviously like, wanting to be like the rest of the guys and wanting to like, be able to hang out with them and not worry about Max, and like that's shown like why he's not worried about Max when he's like going outside and playing basketball with Andy. So I feel like it kind of like looking back on it, there was a lot of clues building up to the fact that like he was gonna give up Max.
I said the exact same thing as Allie. On page 172 it says, and I wished I could always be here on Andy's driveway with nothing else to think about but the next basket and who was going to get the next shot. I thought like this, like he was thinking about this for a long time, but like this was one of the turning points points. There were several turning points, I think, but this was one of the main ones in the story because like this is where Sam like misses being a teenager. He doesn't get that chance now because he's been having to father Max for a while. So I think he mainly misses being like just a teenager. And that was like one decision, but there were several other things.
I said the same thing as you did, Emily. But like, instead of like, I feel like it's instead of turning point, I feel like the whole hospital scene was like the breaking point for Sam. Like, it was just like, he just had enough like, of having to like sacrifice his future and like, having to always think about it. And then like on page 171, he fell and said how much he missed just running as fast as he could and taking hits. And I think that that was just like one of the points that happened before his breaking point at the emergency room. So
I agree with what Sarah and Alex said. I had the quote, "It knocked me out of my breath," and then I lay there for a minute and thinking about how much I missed this. And that was on 171. And then on 173, it says it's Max, he's bleeding. So that just like shows like how much can change like in that little time, and that he can't really like do anything without like Max like always being there and like having to pay attention to him. So I think that was like kind of a big turning point that made him like realize that he like can't like take care of him anymore.
But
Kind of like agreeing with Sarah, I think it was kind of a gradual lead up that we didn't really notice until we figured out he was getting adopted, but I also think that like it was probably in Sam's head since the day he agreed to adopt Max in the first place, and I kind of feel like Sam even like deciding to adopt Max was kind of a spur of the moment impulse, like he just felt like he had to do it because it was his child. And you can kind of tell throughout the story that he felt like it was kind of a requirement. Like he said, I knew what I had to do on page 135. And I think it's also evident when he was thinking about the SAT and actually pursuing college, this wouldn't be able to happen if he had a baby.
I disagree with Allison and what she said about like not being able to take care of him anymore. Like little kids get hurt all the time, so like if like who has gotten hurt like or cut or like stitches. So I think that's just like a normal thing about like growing up as.
Yeah, but the thing is, at first, they didn't see the cut at first. They just, all you saw was like blood all over. So I thought it was a baby probably that was going to die. Like only in the car was that he noticed it was just cut inside.
I still agree with Tene though. I think that it's
Yeah.
getting cuts. Everybody's gotten, not everybody, but lots of people have gotten the stitches. Like I know I got stitches when I was younger. I don't think that's a poor reflection on parenting, and I think it's just it's a part of growing up. Kids have to learn. You know, that's how you learn.
Do you guys think like it was this decision he made, like he was thinking about throughout the whole book, or do you think